The secret to unlocking every door, beyond limits. There's a reason why some people seem to have everything: success, financial abundance, opportunities falling into place, while others struggle, feeling like every door is locked shut. It's not because they're luckier, smarter, or more talented. And it's certainly not because God has favorites. But here's what most people don't realize. There is a spiritual law that governs success, opportunities, and breakthroughs. A law that has been written for centuries in the Bible. Yet most people either overlook it or completely misunderstand it. You might have prayed for change. You might have worked harder than ever. You might have done everything in your power to improve your life, but somehow you still feel stuck, financially, emotionally, spiritually. And the worst part, the world tells you that maybe this is just your fate. That maybe you're not meant to experience abundance, that maybe wealth and success are reserved for a select few. But that's a lie, a deception that has kept millions trapped in cycles of lack and limitation. God never intended for his people to live in constant struggle. In fact, Jesus himself said in John 10:10, "I have come that they may have life and have it more abundantly." The question is, why aren't you experiencing it? The answer isn't what you think. It's not just about working harder. It's not just about praying more. And it's not about waiting for a miracle to drop from the sky. There's something deeper, something powerful that unlocks doors that no man can shut. But most people never learn this secret. Today, you will. By the time you finish this, you will understand exactly why some people are walking in divine favor, experiencing breakthroughs, and accessing levels of financial and personal success they never imagined, while others remain in struggle, despite praying and working hard. This is not another motivational talk. This is not wishful thinking. This is biblical truth. And if you stay until the end, you will never see your life the same way again. So if you're ready to finally unlock the doors that have been closed in your life, whether in your finances, career, or relationships, then do this. Subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications, because today we are breaking the cycle and stepping into the life God intended for you. The first obstacle, the wrong key. Imagine standing before a massive door. Behind it lies everything you've ever prayed for: opportunities, financial stability, personal fulfillment, divine favor. You reach for the handle, push against the door, but it doesn't budge. Frustrated, you try again. Nothing. What do most people do in this situation? They assume the door is locked. They turn away, defeated, believing maybe it wasn't meant to open for them. But what if I told you the problem isn't the door? Most people go through life holding the wrong key. They believe that if they just work harder, sacrifice more, hustle endlessly, they'll eventually force the door open. Others think that simply waiting, doing nothing but hoping, will cause God to magically swing the door open for them. And then there are those who think money itself is the answer, assuming that if they had enough wealth, everything would align perfectly. But here's the truth. Hard work alone is not the key. Blind faith without action is not the key. Money itself is not the key. The Bible makes this very clear. Look at Solomon, one of the wealthiest and most successful men who ever lived. When given the opportunity to ask for anything, he didn't ask for riches, power, or fame. He asked for wisdom. And because of that, God not only gave him wisdom, but also riches, wealth, and honor beyond measure. 2 Chronicles 1:11-12. Solomon understood something that most people don't. Success, financial breakthroughs, and divine opportunities don't come from chasing money or status. They come from using the right key, and that key is God's wisdom. But what happens when you try to open a door with the wrong key? No matter how hard you try, the door remains shut. That's why so many people are stuck, frustrated, and exhausted. They're using keys that were never meant to unlock the doors they seek. Consider this. How many people sacrifice their health, family, and peace of mind in the relentless pursuit of wealth, only to find themselves empty once they achieve it? They thought money was the key, but once they had it, they realized something was still missing. Others live their entire lives waiting for change, convinced that if they just pray enough, things will eventually fall into place. Yet they ignore the wisdom and action God is calling them to take. They expect blessings to appear without stepping out in faith. Then there are those who do everything the world tells them to do: study hard, work long hours, build a career, yet remain stuck in the same financial struggles year after year. Why? Because they are relying on human effort alone, without understanding the divine principles that govern success. This is why Jesus said in Matthew 6:33, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you." This is the key that so many people miss. When you seek God's wisdom first, when you align your financial and personal decisions with his principles, doors begin to open that no human effort could have ever forced open. Favor starts to follow you. Opportunities appear seemingly out of nowhere. The right connections come into your life, and suddenly you find yourself walking through doors that others struggle to even reach. But what does seeking God's wisdom actually look like in real life? It means making financial decisions based on biblical principles, not just cultural trends. It means pursuing opportunities with integrity, patience, and discernment, rather than chasing quick gains or easy success. It means understanding that true wealth isn't just about money, it's about abundance in every area of life. Because here's something most people never realize: you can have money and still be broke. A person can have riches, but no peace. They can have luxury, but no love. They can have success, but no purpose. This is why so many people, celebrities, CEOs, even pastors, reach the top, only to fall into depression, addiction, or complete self-destruction. They thought they had the right key, but the truth was, they were chasing the wrong doors all along. So now let me ask you, have you been using the wrong key in your life? Have you been relying on your own strength, chasing wealth without wisdom, or expecting doors to open without taking the right steps of faith? Or have you been seeking God's wisdom first, trusting him, obeying his principles, and walking in the divine favor that unlocks doors effortlessly? Drop a comment below and let me know. What is one area in your life where you feel stuck right now? I read every comment and will be giving a heart to each one, because what we're about to discuss next will change everything. The second obstacle, the fear of knocking. You've heard the saying, knock, and the door will be opened to you. It's a promise straight from Jesus himself in Matthew 7:7. But what happens when someone is too afraid to knock? Many people stand in front of doors that God has already prepared to open, yet they remain frozen in place, paralyzed by fear, self-doubt, and uncertainty. They see the opportunity, they know it's there, but something inside them whispers, "What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if this isn't for me?" That whisper is the voice of fear, and it has kept countless people trapped in financial lack, emotional distress, and spiritual stagnation for generations. Think about this. How many people have missed life-changing opportunities because they were afraid to take the first step? How many refused to start a business, pursue a dream, or make a bold financial move simply because the risk seemed too great? Fear is a master manipulator. It convinces people that staying in a place of safety is better than stepping into the unknown. But here's the truth. Nothing great has ever been achieved without risk. Even in the Bible, the greatest stories of breakthrough only happened after people took bold steps of faith. Look at Peter. He saw Jesus walking on the water. He had the opportunity to do the impossible. But before he stepped out of the boat, he had to make a decision. to stay in safety, or take the first step. For a moment, Peter experienced what no other man in history had ever done. He walked on water, but the moment he let fear take over, he began to sink. Matthew 14:29-30. This is what happens to so many people. They start with excitement, they begin with faith, but then fear whispers, what if this doesn't work? What if I lose money? What if people judge me? And before they know it, they sink right back into their comfort zone, right back into missed opportunities and regret. But what if Peter had never stepped out at all? That's the real tragedy, not failing, but never trying in the first place. God has placed divine doors before his people, doors of opportunity, financial breakthrough, purpose, and abundance. But those doors don't swing open just because they exist. They open when someone has the courage to knock. And this is where many people fall short. They pray for success, but they refuse to apply for the opportunity. They ask God for financial increase, but they fear investing, starting, or moving forward. They want a better life, but they cling to old habits, afraid of the discomfort that change brings. They let fear stop them, when in reality, the only thing standing between them and their breakthrough is a single act of faith. Now let's be clear, fear is natural. Even the greatest leaders in the Bible felt fear. Joshua, the man chosen to lead Israel into the promised land, was commanded multiple times by God to be strong and courageous. Joshua 1:9. Why? Because even he was afraid. But the difference between those who experience God's blessings and those who don't isn't the presence of fear, it's how they respond to it. Some let fear control them, others act despite it. Fear wants to keep you comfortable. It wants you to believe that the safe option, staying where you are, avoiding risk, not knocking on the door, is the right choice. But here's the problem. Comfort is the enemy of growth. If you always choose comfort, you will always stay where you are. If you refuse to take a step of faith, you will never experience the abundance that comes from trusting God completely. The world teaches a fear-based mentality about wealth, success, and risk. It says, don't take that opportunity, it's too uncertain. Don't start that business, you might fail. Don't pursue financial independence, just settle for what you have. But God says, I have not given you a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and a sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. If fear isn't from God, then where is it coming from? Fear is the enemy's tool to keep you small, to keep you in lack, to keep you away from the doors God wants you to walk through. The enemy doesn't need to take away your opportunities. He just needs to make you too afraid to act on them. So now, the real question is, what doors have you been afraid to knock on? What opportunity have you been hesitating on? What dream have you been pushing aside because fear has convinced you that you're not ready, not qualified, or not worthy? Because here's the truth. God has already prepared the way. The only thing left is for you to take action. And that's where most people stop. Not because the door isn't real, not because they lack skill, ability, or potential, but because they allow fear to paralyze them before they even try. And that is the greatest tragedy of all. The third obstacle, lack of persistence. Have you ever started something with excitement, believing it was the right path, only to quit when things didn't work out as fast as you expected? Maybe you launched a business, but after a few months of struggle, you walked away. Maybe you prayed for financial breakthrough, but when it didn't come immediately, you lost faith. Maybe you pursued a goal with full determination, but the first setback made you question if it was worth it. This is where most people fail, not at the start, but in the middle. They knock on the door, but when it doesn't swing open instantly, they assume it wasn't meant to be. They take a step of faith, but when resistance comes, they second-guess themselves. They start running the race, but when the finish line seems too far, they stop. And that's exactly why so many people never reach their full potential. Because the truth is, Most doors don't open on the first knock. Jesus never said, knock once. He said in Luke 18:1-8 that we should be like the persistent widow, a woman who kept going back to the judge again and again until she received justice. Why did Jesus tell this story? Because he knew how easily people give up. Most people expect instant results. They want prayers answered immediately. They want financial success overnight. They want their lives to change without enduring the process. But the reality is, God tests perseverance. If everything came instantly, faith wouldn't be necessary, growth wouldn't be required, and God wouldn't be able to develop the strength in you that is needed to handle the blessings He has for your future. Think about the most successful people in the Bible. None of them reached their destiny overnight. Joseph had a dream of greatness, but before he saw it fulfilled, he was betrayed, enslaved, imprisoned, and forgotten. Yet he never lost faith. He kept trusting, working, and believing until the door finally opened, and when it did, it was bigger than he could have ever imagined. Moses was called to lead Israel to the Promised Land, but he faced obstacle after obstacle: Pharaoh's resistance, the Red Sea, the wilderness. Every step of the way, there were reasons to quit. But because he persisted, God led him to miracles that never would have happened if he had given up too soon. Even Jesus himself, before his resurrection, before his victory, had to endure the greatest suffering imaginable. He could have stopped at any moment. But because he persevered, he opened the door for salvation for all mankind. If the greatest breakthroughs in history only happened through persistence, what makes you think your journey will be any different? This is where most people get stuck. They start with faith, but they stop when the process takes longer than expected. They believe in God's promises, but they quit when obstacles arise. They ask, seek, and knock, but they don't keep knocking when the door doesn't open immediately. And here's the hard truth: many people aren't missing their breakthrough because God hasn't answered. They're missing it because they gave up too soon. Because the truth is, God doesn't always open doors instantly, but when He does, it's always at the perfect time. Think of a farmer. He plants seeds, waters them, and waits. Does he expect a harvest the next morning? No. He knows there's a process, but what if he lost patience and stopped watering his crops too soon? What if he abandoned the field right before the harvest was ready? That's what most people do in life. They plant the seed of faith, they work towards success, but they abandon the process before the breakthrough comes. This is why Galatians 6:9 says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." That proper time is where most people lose faith. They start questioning, maybe I misunderstood God. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I should just settle where I am. And so they walk away, not realizing they were just one step away from the door opening. Let me ask you, how many blessings have been delayed in your life because you gave up too soon? How many times did you stop knocking when the door was just about to open? Because here's the reality: most people who succeed aren't the smartest, the luckiest, or the most talented. They are the ones who refused to quit. They are the ones who kept knocking when others gave up. They are the ones who kept moving when others stopped. They are the ones who stood firm in faith, believing that God's timing is never late, even when it feels delayed. This is why persistence is one of the most powerful spiritual principles, because the enemy knows that if he can't steal your blessing, he will try to steal your patience. If he can't close the door, he will try to convince you to walk away before it opens. But today, you have a choice. Will you keep going, even when you don't see immediate results? Will you keep trusting, even when God's timing doesn't match yours? Will you keep knocking, even when the door seems stuck? Because here's the truth: the door is not locked. It's just waiting for someone who won't stop knocking. If this message is speaking to you, hit the like button right now. Because persistence is what separates those who stay stuck from those who step into divine opportunities. The fourth obstacle, lack of faith. Faith. It's a word that's spoken in churches, written in scriptures and preached in sermons. But let's be honest, how many people truly live by faith? Most say they believe, but the moment life gets tough, their actions tell a different story. They pray for financial increase, but fear giving generously. They ask God for opportunities, but doubt their ability to handle them. They declare that God will provide, but spend every day worrying about money. And that's where the problem lies. Faith is not just a word, it's the currency of the kingdom of God. Without it, doors remain closed. Without it, prayers go unanswered. Without it, even the greatest opportunities can slip through your hands. James 1:6-7 says, "But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord." Did you catch that? Not expect to receive anything. This means doubt is not a small issue. It is a direct block to your blessings, and this is why so many people struggle. They want wealth, but secretly believe it's wrong to have money. They want opportunities, but assume others are more qualified. They want to be successful, but deep inside, they don't believe they deserve it. Here's the hard truth. If you don't believe in what God has for you, you will never receive it. Look at Israel. God promised them a land flowing with milk and honey, a place of abundance, prosperity, and security. But when they finally stood on the edge of their promise, ready to enter, they did something tragic. They doubted. They saw the giants in the land and said, "We can't do this. We're too small. We're not strong enough." And because of their lack of faith, they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, missing out on the very blessing that was meant for them. Numbers 13:31-33. And here's what's terrifying. Many people today are doing the exact same thing. They are standing right on the edge of breakthrough, but instead of stepping forward in faith, they retreat in fear. Instead of trusting that God has made a way, they focus on obstacles. Instead of walking into their promise, they choose to stay in the wilderness of doubt. And the result? Doors that were meant to open remain closed. Because here's the truth. God will never open a door for someone who refuses to walk through it. Faith is not about seeing the way. It's about trusting that the way is already prepared. Abraham understood this. When God told him to leave his homeland and go to a place he had never seen before, he had no guarantees. He didn't know where he was going. He had no blueprint. He had nothing but a word from God. But he went anyway. And because of his faith, God blessed him beyond measure, making him the father of many nations. Genesis 12:1-4. Now, let's bring this into your life. What opportunities have you turned away from because you doubted God's provision? What dreams have you ignored because you assumed they were too big for you? What financial decisions have you hesitated on because fear told you it was too risky? This is the root issue for so many people. They say they trust God, but their actions tell a different story. They won't start the business because they're afraid it won't work. They won't invest because they fear losing money. They won't step into a new opportunity because they worry about failing. And yet they wonder why doors aren't opening. God cannot reward unbelief. Hebrews 11:6 says, "Without faith, it is impossible to please God." Notice it doesn't say difficult, it says impossible. This is why some people experience supernatural favor, while others remain stuck. It's not because one group is more talented, more educated, or more deserving. It's because one group moves forward in faith, while the other remains paralyzed by doubt. The difference between success and struggle isn't effort, it's faith. People think that success comes from working harder, grinding longer hours, and doing everything in their own strength. But in reality, the most successful people aren't the ones who work the hardest. They are the ones who trust God's plan and step forward when others hesitate. Look around. How many people waste their entire lives waiting for certainty? They wait for perfect conditions before making a move. They wait for all the answers before taking the first step. They wait for a sign that everything will be easy before they begin. And because they keep waiting, nothing ever happens. They pray for open doors, but when the moment comes, they don't walk through them, because deep inside, they don't believe they can. And here's the most dangerous part. Doubt doesn't just keep doors closed, it slowly destroys your potential. Every time you hesitate, you train yourself to live below what God has for you. Every time you shrink back in fear, you strengthen the idea that you are not capable. Every time you choose comfort over faith, you reinforce the lie that you are meant to stay small. And over time, you don't even try anymore. You accept less than God's best because doubt has convinced you that it's all you'll ever have. But what if that's not true? What if the door you've been praying for has already been unlocked, but God is waiting for you to have enough faith to push it open? What if the opportunity you're afraid of is actually your breakthrough? What if your biggest blessing is waiting on the other side of your fear? Because the truth is, faith doesn't mean there won't be challenges. Faith means trusting God despite them. So now, the real question is, will you step forward in faith, or will you let doubt keep you where you are? Because the doors that God has prepared will not wait forever. The secret to unlocking every door. At this point, one thing should be clear. Closed doors aren't always closed by God. Many times, they remain shut because people are using the wrong key, too afraid to knock, too quick to give up, or too filled with doubt to step forward. But what if I told you that the door you've been waiting for, the financial breakthrough, the divine opportunity, the shift you've been praying for, has already been unlocked? Because here's the truth that most people never realize. God doesn't withhold opportunities. He doesn't keep doors locked to test your patience. He doesn't limit access to blessings. The problem has never been God's willingness to open doors. The problem is whether you are ready to walk through them. And this is where everything changes, because when you understand the one principle that governs divine access, you will never struggle with closed doors again. You will begin to see opportunities where others see obstacles. You will attract favor where others face rejection. You will unlock provision where others experience lack. So what is the secret? What is the one key that opens every door in the kingdom of God? The answer is hidden in Revelation 3:8. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. Read that again. God has already placed an open door before you. The question is not whether the door is locked. The question is whether you are positioned to enter it. Because here's the secret. The key to unlocking every door is obedience, not just faith, not just persistence, not just courage. Obedience. The willingness to walk through the door when God calls, even when you don't understand. The discipline to follow divine principles, even when it's uncomfortable. The boldness to step forward when others hesitate, even when it looks impossible. Because when God opens a door, He doesn't open it for the passive. He opens it for the prepared. And that's the difference between those who experience divine abundance and those who remain in lack. Many people pray for open doors, but ignore the instructions that lead to them. They want financial increase, but they don't apply biblical principles of stewardship, generosity, and integrity. They want God to multiply their resources, but they refuse to act in faith when an opportunity arises. They want wealth and success, but they don't want to change their habits, mindsets, and daily decisions. And so, they wait. They stand in front of an already open door, wondering why nothing is happening, when all along God is saying, "Step in." Think about Peter again. When he saw Jesus walking on the water, the miracle wasn't in the invitation. It was in Peter's decision to step out. Had he stayed in the boat, nothing would have happened. Had he hesitated, he would have missed the experience of a lifetime. But because he moved in obedience, he walked where no man had walked before. This is why obedience is the key to every breakthrough. It is obedience that turns faith into action. It is obedience that turns prayers into reality. It is obedience that turns divine promises into physical manifestations. And this is where most people miss it, because obedience often requires sacrifice. It requires giving when it's uncomfortable. It requires trusting when it doesn't make sense. It requires moving forward even when the timing doesn't seem perfect. But here's the truth. Delayed obedience is disobedience. When God tells you to move, He expects you to move. When He gives you an opportunity, He expects you to step into it. When He opens a door, He expects you to walk through it. And the reason many people never experience true success is because they keep waiting for another confirmation, another sign, another level of certainty, when all along God has already spoken. He has already given the opportunity. He has already positioned the right people. He has already made the way clear. But the one thing missing is your obedience, because faith without action is dead. Because an opportunity without action is wasted. Because an open door means nothing if you refuse to walk through it. So let me ask you this. What has God already told you to do that you've been delaying? What door has been waiting for you to walk through, but you've hesitated? Because here's the truth. The greatest opportunities aren't the ones you ask for. They are the ones you act on. The financial breakthrough you've been praying for, it's waiting on the other side of an act of obedience. The opportunity you've been hoping for, it's already available, but you have to move toward it. The divine connections, the supernatural provision, the abundance God has for you, they are not hidden. They are unlocked by obedience. And today, you have a choice. You can stay where you are, waiting, hesitating, questioning, or you can step forward in faith, knowing that when God opens a door, no man can shut it, because the only thing standing between you and the life God has for you is your decision to walk through the door. And if this message spoke to you today, share this with someone who needs to hear it, because this truth has the power to change lives. Step through the door. Now, the question is no longer whether God has opened a door for you. The question is, are you willing to step through it? Because here's the reality. By this point, you know the truth. You know that the wrong key will never open the right door. You know that fear will keep you stuck in front of opportunities. You know that persistence is the difference between success and failure. You know that faith is the foundation that unlocks divine blessings. And now you know that obedience is the final step that determines whether you enter your promise or stay outside of it. But knowing isn't enough. The reason most people never experience God's best for their lives isn't because they lack knowledge. It's because they never apply what they learn. They hear messages like this. They feel inspired. They think about making a change. But then, they go back to doing exactly what they did before. They keep hesitating. They keep doubting. They keep waiting for perfect timing instead of taking action. And that is how opportunities are lost. Time is wasted, and doors that were once open eventually close. Because God will never force you to walk through a door. He opens it. He positions you in front of it. He gives you the tools, the wisdom, and the confirmation, but the final step is yours. And that's where so many people miss it. They let fear win. They let doubt control them. They convince themselves that now isn't the right time. And before they know it, years pass, and they are still in the exact same place. So, let me ask you, are you ready to move? Are you ready to stop waiting, stop hesitating, stop overanalyzing, and finally step into the life God has for you? Because here's the truth. Your future will not wait for you. The opportunity before you today might not be there tomorrow. The calling on your life requires action now, not later. The financial breakthrough, the divine connections, the supernatural provision, they are already available, but you must be willing to step forward. So before you go, I want you to do 3 things. If this message spoke to you today, make sure to hit that like button. It's not just about engagement, it's about declaring, I receive this word, and I'm ready to act on it. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Because here, we don't just talk about success. We live by biblical principles that create real change. And if you want to keep growing, keep learning, and keep stepping into divine favor, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another message. And most importantly, watch the next video on the screen right now. Because if today's message opened your eyes, that video will take you even deeper, giving you the next step to apply this wisdom in your life. And if this word was for you today, share this with someone who needs it, because the same truth that just unlocked something in your life can change someone else's too. Your door is already open. The only question is, will you walk through it?